Hello and welcome to Geometry and your very first screencast of the year. So the way this works, I'll go through either a full lesson or an introduction to a lesson, and this way we have more time in class to either work on homework, go through activities, and just kind of make it so we don't always take notes all the time in class. So I'll do this a lot when, especially like this lesson has just a lot of vocab, and realistically you'd be sitting there copying vocab the entire time. So I recommend that you take notes either on your iPad or just handwritten notes with good old fashioned paper and pencil, just because just the physical act of writing something out does seem to have some sort of connection in the brain, so take that for what it's worth. So, first section in geometry is called Getting Started, so let's go. First off, we're going to start off with the definition of a point, and a point is a location in space. What it looks like? Well, it looks like a point, and it's got a capital letter. You must use a capital letter when you are naming points. We'll use lowercase letters for other things, but for many things we are going to use capital letters to name things. So these are points A, B, and C. We also have a line segment, and a line segment is a set of points with two endpoints. So, it looks like what you would normally think of as a line, and it has two definite endpoints. There are an infinite amount of points in between A and B, but line segment AB has a definite length, something that we can actually talk about. So, we name it again using those capital letters. So this one we can call line segment AB or line segment BA, and notice the symbolage on top. It's just a line. If you wish to put the little endpoints at the end, you may, but it is not necessary, and you'll see why, because lines will look different. A ray is a set of points with a beginning but no end. So it's definite beginning. We see an arrow distinguishing the direction. So think of it like a sun ray. Sun ray starts at the sun, goes theoretically infinitely in one direction. So we are talking about a specific direction. Because of that direction, we need to reference that direction when we are naming it. We are using our capital letters beginning with the point, followed by any other point that ray goes through. So we can call this ray OK. Notice again, it's a line segment, but it's got that little arrow at the one end. And our arrows will always go toward the right. We cannot name this KO because KO would mean that it's starting at K and going through O in the opposite direction, as this ray is, well, not doing for us. A line is a set of points with no beginning or end. So a line segment had a definite beginning and end. A line does not. So as we see, there are the two arrows at the end signifying goes on forever. A couple different ways we can name it. We can use capital letters of any 2 points on that line, so like line CA, line CT, anything like that. We can use a lowercase cursive letter. Sometimes, just like the L here, there will be just the letter off to the side. We'll see this a lot with parallel lines, especially later on. But sometimes just the lowercase letter that's cursive will be off to the side of our line, and we can use that to name our line. If it's not there, though, we just can't arbitrarily add it. So, possible names for this one, line CT. See how it's got the arrow on both ends, signifying that it is a line. Line TC, L. Notice how we don't need any sort of line above it. The lowercase cursive kind of already takes care of that. Would we be able to call this line AT? Well, it is going through A, and it is going through T, and it's going infinitely in both directions, so that is an okay name. An angle is a figure formed by two rays with a common endpoint, which we call a vertex. So, here's our vertex. One ray, another ray. So we can name this a couple different ways. We can use 3 points with the vertex at the center. We can just use the vertex only if it is unique. And what I mean by that is there are no other angles that can be formed that use that vertex. If there are multiple angles that use that vertex, you have to be specific, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. And if there's a number there, you can use the number. So 3 points with a vertex in our center, we can say angle DOG. An angle symbol is just kind of almost like a little less than symbol. We can call this angle GOD. Using our vertex, that endpoint, we can call it angle O, or we can use that number that's there. And again, if that number isn't there, typically we don't tend to add it. If we had a situation like this, let's just go A, B, C, D. A lot of times that little point where the actual, D, O, G, A, B, C, D won't always be specifically marked on our rays or our angles or our lines. We can just kind of assume it's in that general area. So here we would not be able to say angle B, because angle B could be referring to this angle on the right, this angle on the left, this whole angle. So we just can't be ambiguous. We've got to be specific. Okay, so we've also got a triangle. You've probably been seeing triangles since you were little, and a triangle is a three-sided polygon. What it looks like. So it looks like a triangle always has. It's got 3 points, 3 sides. We name it using the 3 vertices to name the triangle, so we name those by those 3 corners. So we can name this one in all possible different ways. Later on, it will be very important that you name it properly according to whatever we're working on. So this one, for example, could be GEO, GOE, EGO, etc. So any combination of those 3 letters is a possible way to name this triangle. Union and intersection. So we've got unions, which is what happens when we put them together. So we're including every piece of each of the 2 different sets. Intersection is what do they have in common. Think of 2 streets where their intersection are that point or that common square area in the center is what they have in common. A union is conveniently symbolized by a U, and an intersection is an upside down U. So, what do we get when we have the union of ray AR and ray AY? We notice that they both have A as their starting point. So if I would draw that, I would have an angle very similar to this. So union, what happens when I put them together? When I take into account this ray and this ray, I give myself an angle. Angle ray or angle YAR, either or. This upside down U again, intersection, what do they have in common? So if these are 2 streets, they would both have in common that point A. So we just have point A. You do not have to say point in front of a point that you're trying to name. Simply a capital letter suffices. Go ahead and give this a shot. Now maybe get a good time to pause, draw the diagram for yourself, or take a screenshot and see what you come up with. For the first one, we're talking about a union, putting them together. So we've got ray SD, and we've got ray SR. Two rays, common endpoint. We've got an angle. Next one, we're talking about an intersection of two lines, line DA and line WR. What do they have in common? That point S. Union, put them all together. So we've got segment RS, segment SA, and segment RA. When we put all those together, hopefully you're seeing that we have a triangle. And you can name it in any one of those orders. We can name RSA, we can name ASR, RAS, whichever. Naming won't quite have as much of an importance yet. Next one, we have an intersection. What do they have in common? Line DR and line WA. Lines go on forever. We don't officially know about parallel lines yet, but it doesn't look like they have anything in common, and indeed they don't. So it is possible for your intersection to be none, or you can say an empty set. Intersection again, segment WR. What does that have in common with segment SR? We see segment SR is part of WR, so the part they have in common is segment SR. A union, putting them together. Same ones that we just saw, so what do we get when we put them together? We have an overlap of SR, but SR doesn't make a completely unique section that gets added on, so our union of WR and SR is that segment WR. You're done with your first screencast. That wasn't so bad. They typically won't be this long, but just because, we're getting through a lot of vocab, it was on the longer side. So now in class we'll be able to do some activities, practice naming, practice drawing, and get some, if not all of your homework done, and I'll be there to help you out. So if you have any feedback, please let me know. We will do these periodically throughout the year. It's not going to be every day by any means, but it's just something to kind of mix things up and give us some more time in class. So I'll see you then.